Welcome to Community Church Unitarian Universalist. I'm your worship associate, Michelle Firestone, and it's a joy to be with you this morning. Community Church is a progressive, open-minded, and inclusive religious community. We welcome all who are on a spiritual search for truth and meaning. Ours is a faith in action as we do the spiritual work of social justice and elevate compassion in our quest to live ethically, recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every being. Please look to your weekly email for announcements. We are delighted to welcome back into our pulpit our very own Jim O'Neill this morning. Early in life, Jim felt called to a life of service, and after seminary training, he served as a priest for 8 years, but felt it necessary to leave due to the Catholic Patriarchy's exclusion of women and imposition of rigid doctrine. In 1977, Jim married his dear friend Vera and began a family with the birth of their daughter, Lisa. Lisa's right here. Jim trained as a licensed professional counselor, earned his doctorate, and has served the New Orleans community as a psychotherapist for 47 years. Jim found his spiritual home in Unitarian Universalism as a member of Community Church, serving as worship associate. He's a poet, tennis player, swimmer, and lover of nature's wisdom and beauty. He is grieving the loss of his beloved wife, Vera, with whom he enjoyed a wonderful 50-year dance of masculine and feminine energy. Always a joy to have Jim in our pulpit.
Good morning. Would you join me in the opening words from Starhawk? It's 517 in your hymnal, number 517. I'll begin, and if you'd read the italics. I who am the beauty of the green earth and the white moon among the stars and the mysteries of the waters.
I call upon your soul to rise and come to me.
For I am the soul of nature that gives life to the universe. From me all things proceed, and unto me must return. Let my worship be in the heart that rejoices. For behold, all acts of love and pleasure are my rituals.
Let there be
Beauty, power and compassion, honor and humility, mirth and reverence within you. And you who seek to know me, know that your seeking and yearning will avail you not unless you know the mystery. For if that which you seek you find not within yourself, you will never find it without. For behold, I have been with you from the beginning.
It is our custom to light a chalice invoking hope and eternal truth to our worship. Please join us in the singing of the words of chalice lighting. We light this flame printed in your order of service.
We light this flame to offer
And now our RE director, Cynthia Ramirez, has a time for all ages.
Wow. Hello. Good morning, everyone. This morning, I'm going to share a little story. It's called Franny's Father is a Feminist, and it's written by Rhonda Licht and illustrated by Megan Walker. This is Franny. This is Franny's father. Franny's father is a feminist. He knows that girls can do anything boys can do and raises Franny to believe she deserves all the same rights, freedoms, and opportunities that she has had. It's simple, really. When Franny's father was a child, he and his sister did chores around the house. His parents assigned him mowing the lawn and taking out the trash, while his sister did dishes and helped with laundry. "Why can't I mow the lawn?" she complained. "That's a boy's chore," their dad explained. To young Franny's father, this seemed very odd. One day, he offered to swap. His sister mowed the lawn in no time flat. Franny's father was impressed. He had always loved the smell of laundry anyway. When Franny was little, she loved to sort all the tools from the workbench in the garage. Franny's father taught her all the names and also how to use them. Soon, Franny could take her bicycle apart and put it back together all by herself. They've since moved to larger vehicles, which is his car, of course. On weekdays, when he isn't working, Franny's father takes her fishing. Franny baits her own hook and doesn't even gag a bit. When Franny catches more fish than her father, he tells her she reminds him of his sister when she was a little girl. When the fish aren't biting, Franny plays in the mud, catching frogs. She proudly leaves a ring of dirt in the tub. Girls should be able to do anything boys do. Franny's father sighs and he grabs a sponge. This is Franny's mother. She has an important job. When Franny's mother leaves her work before Franny is even out of bed, Franny's father helps her get ready for school. He is an expert hair braider and knows all the coolest style, but he always lets Franny pick out her own clothes. He says, "Just be yourself." Sometimes when Franny's father picks her up from school, they stop at her mother's office to see the next big project she's designing. Franny feels excited when she sees her mother testing the latest computer programs. She lets Franny push buttons to make things move on the screen. On the way home, Franny asks, "Whose job is more important, Mom's or yours?" Franny's father smiles. "We both share the most important job in the world, and that is raising you." Franny participates in many after-school activities. Franny's father is very supportive. He is proud of Franny when she helps a teammate score the winning goal at her hockey game. Franny's father also enjoys watching her perform in ballet recitals. Sometimes he can be a little bit too supportive. Oh. After homework time, Franny and her parents love to watch movies together. When Franny's father tears up, she hands him a tissue. Franny knows her dad cries, and that's okay. Franny's friends love slumber parties at the house. Her father tells them camp stories in the backyard. Between their favorite ghost stories, Franny's father slips in tales of historic women after stoking the fire. He tells them about Claire Marie Hodges, who in 1918 became the first female park ranger for the national parks, and Sally Ride, who was the first American woman to fly to space. One more story before bed, Franny always pleads. So he tells them more of a brave young woman like Ruby Bridges, the girl who broke down racial barriers between segregated elementary schools in the 1960s. and Malala Yousafzai, who today is paving the way for girls to be able to attend school all around the world. Franny and her friends are grateful they already are able to learn in school. When times are tough, Franny's father teaches her that you always have to stand up for what matters to you most. Sometimes they make signs. This guy says, no kittens. And she says, mm-mm. It says, kittens are perfect. Franny's father believes in his daughter and daughters everywhere and helps her build the confidence to believe in herself. And after all, that's what a feminist father does. The end. Do I see any? I don't see any kids. Anyways, have a glorious day.
Everywhere you may go. Love that book, Cynthia. Thank you. So instead of a reading today, can I tell you a story?
Sure. Yes.
It's the story of the battalion 6888. It's an all-women, all-black battalion of World War II. There was a meeting in the White House with the generals, the president, and Eleanor Roosevelt was there. She found out that for all 3 years of the war, mail was not being delivered to the troops or to their families. The male generals said, well, it just couldn't be done. It's too difficult, required too many resources, couldn't be done. Eleanor said it had to be done for the sake of the morale of the troops and the families. It had to be done. So the generals, still convinced it couldn't be done, dismissively gave the impossible task of delivering 17 million pieces of mail to this squadron. The unit consisted of 855 African American women, led by Major Charity Adams. After being shipped to Europe, they found numerous challenges. They were given a 6-month deadline, around-the-clock shifts, very poor working conditions, racial and gender discrimination, and of course the troops were constantly on the move. So how could you get the mail to them if they weren't there where they were yesterday? The woman took on the task, determined with the motto, no mail, low morale. With feminine ingenuity, determination, and long, hard hours under terrible conditions and regular harassment from male officers, guess what? They got 17 million pieces of mail delivered in 3 months. Can you imagine the boost in morale for soldiers and their families to hear from each other after 3 years of silence? And the military patriarchy said it wasn't worth the effort and resources and couldn't be done. Before this movie, most of us, at least I, had never heard of the heroic efforts of these women. And if Tyler Perry had not produced the movie, we probably never would have heard about them. One more time, when men tell the story, it's his story. And they leave out her story. If you haven't seen the movie, it's worth your time.
Now is our sacred time of joys and sorrows. If you're online, you may write your joys and sorrows in the comments section to be read aloud. In person, you may write them on one of the cards to be passed out by our greeters. Please remain seated as we sing our hymn number 91, Mother of All. From Elise, a sorrow, Tim fell on Monday. A joy, after the ER, surgery, and several doctor appointments, he keeps his eye. Oh, goodness. It could have been so much worse. Oh, gosh. We're certainly glad he's okay. From Alice, a sorrow for the lives lost in the Texas flooding and the grief of their loved ones, and a hope that more survivors are found safe. Definitely. From Carol Lipp, a longtime active member of CCU. Oh, not from Carol. I'm not sure who this is from, but Carol Lipp, this must be from Janet. Yeah. Carol Lipp, a longtime active member of CCU, fell and broke her back several weeks ago in Texas. She's recovering at a rehab facility there, and we're hopeful that she has a full recovery. From Jacqueline, there is so much to grieve this week, and I won't list, but I'm grieving with the, sorry, I can't read that word. With a lump in my throat, yeah. A joy, we had a fun game night last night. Another joy, we celebrated Brad Ott's birthday. He brought us a chantilly cake to celebrate, and there's some left over. There's a lot left over, I think, for coffee hour. And we'll light 2 more candles, one for the joys still bubbling up, too new to share, and one for the sorrows that we cannot yet put into words. Know that we hold you in our hearts.
So instead of the second reading, I have a modern parable to share with you. After I realized that my beloved wife Vera was buried on the same day as Pope Francis, I had this persistent fantasy. Imagine, if you will, the pearly gates of heaven, which are typically guarded by St. Peter, whose job it is to decide who is worthy to enter heaven and who needs to go elsewhere. In Catholic theology, elsewhere could be hell or purgatory. A few words about one way to see the difference between heaven, hell, and purgatory. So imagine that there are 2 rooms set with wonderful banquet tables with all the best food you could ever imagine having, okay? And in each room, people are given a very long fork, okay? And so they cannot, with that fork, bring food to their mouth. The people in heaven quickly figure out that all they need to do is feed each other. And so in feeding each other, they are blissful and happy, telling stories and laughing. Meanwhile, in hell, people are desperately trying to figure out how to meet their own selfish needs and feed themselves. It never occurs to them. So they're in a hell of their own making. Now about purgatory. Well, purgatory is the people who are invited to come to the heavenly banquet. They get to the door, it's open for them, and they see who's there. And they say, I don't know if I want to be with those people because, they're not the right color, or I don't like what they think. And so, no thanks. So the people in purgatory suffer because of their exclusion, because of their judgments and prejudices. Okay, so back to my parable. So Francis, remember at the pearly gates? Francis arrives at the pearly gates, but he's surprised to see that it's not St. Peter, but Mary, the mother of Jesus, seated by the gate. He also notices that a white-haired woman named Vera got there before him. So Mary embraces Vera and welcomes her quickly through the pearly gates. Pope Francis approaches Mary with the question, "Where's St. Peter?" Mary answered, "I'm afraid we had to fire St. Peter, and we sent him to purgatory. And Francis, you will be going there too." Francis was shocked and asked why. Mary answered, "Well, it's true, Francis, that you did much good with compassion and love, but you and your bishops and your cardinals committed grievous sins of injustice and exclusion." Francis was dumbfounded and asked, "What sins?" Mary answered, you all refused to treat women as equals, denying those who felt called to be priests, and you refused to marry people who loved each other deeply simply because of their sexual orientation. When you and your bishops repent of those sins of exclusion and injustice, you can enter the heavenly banquet. Remember, when you judge or exclude others, you judge and exclude yourself. Pope Francis had no good answer for that, so he hung his head and walked into purgatory. End of the parable. Now, for today's Sunday message, I want to begin with a poem by Langston Hughes entitled Harlem. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? Hughes' poem is about the dream of equality for Blacks. And we know about the explosions that occurred as that dream continues to be denied and deferred. We remember George Floyd, and now the dream of so many brown immigrants being denied indiscriminately. Today I want to talk with you about another very important dream that has been deferred. In the events leading up to the year 2000, I had the naive hope that institutional patriarchy and white male supremacy in its many forms, in government, churches, and corporations, was dying as powerful feminine energy was emerging. I even wrote a poem entitled The New Dance. It's too long to share with you, but the flow of it was that divine feminine energy was rising, and it was encountering a more humble, less arrogant masculine energy, and these merged energies became a beautiful new dance. The sculpture I brought today symbolizes that new dance. No more patriarchy, not a restored matriarchy, but a new balance of those energies in service of the whole universe. Feminine energy was emerging, demanding equal rights, equal pay, equal opportunity, and equal positions of power. Women formerly oppressed and or abused were breaking out of silence in the Me Too movement as it grew in numbers and strength. Women were claiming the right to love whom they loved, dress how they chose, hold their own both at home and at work. But what I had not reckoned with was that how fearful white men would respond. They were so threatened that women and minorities would undermine their privilege and power that they launched an all-out attack on any woman who would dare to break the glass ceiling they had imposed. That ceiling to keep women in subordinate positions. So instead of electing very qualified women in the person of Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris, they chose a malignant narcissist who had bullied and lied his way into positions of prestige and power, and use those positions to denigrate, disparage, lie about, and attempt to destroy anyone and any woman who opposed him. Yet, despite his election, not a week passes without some manifestation in the news that we are in the midst of a radical shift in consciousness about masculine-feminine relationships. Powerful, successful men held in high esteem are being exposed by victims of their sexual harassment, molestation, and/or rape. The movement began slowly with a few courageous women who could not and would not be silent. They courageously came forward with the hashtag #MeToo. It became clear to me and to many that these were not isolated incidents of a few men abusing their position and power to exploit or dominate women. These incidents were the tip of the iceberg, which reminds me of the image. Remember the powerful, unsinkable Titanic as a symbol of male patriarchy and dominance. The captain enjoyed the privilege of his position and gender and was so assured of his masterful power and the indestructible ship that he ignored weather warnings of dangerous ice, maintained full speed ahead to prove his ship was not only the most powerful, but the fastest, and sailed right into the tip of an iceberg that ripped open the supposedly indestructible steel armor of masculine power and brought about the disastrous sinking of masculine grandiosity. The arrogance and narcissism of those men brought about their own demise, but they took down with them innocent women and children who had been programmed to believe that their men were all powerful and would protect them. Today, we have witnessed the sailing of a new Titanic under the banner of making America great again, led by a man who promised that he had the power and vision to save America from all its ills, and he was grandiose enough to claim that he could do it alone. He was elected, in my judgment, not just because our electoral college model is antiquated, but because there's enough people in our country who still hang on to the belief that a woman could not possibly be an effective president. And so an obviously flawed man who promised to return to a fictitious, blissful country led by white men who had all the answers, the simple answers, by the way, to complex problems we are facing as a culture and planet, would make America great again. Rick Steves, in his video on fascism in Europe, if you haven't seen it, it's worth a look, pointed out that our deep psychic desire for a hero to save or take over resulted in folks like Mussolini, Hitler, and now Trump. It dawned on me recently that some Americans are like Trump, narcissists who are exquisitely sensitive to anything that hurts them, but oblivious to the suffering of others. Of course they would elect a narcissist like them. Others were seduced by his promises to save them and rescue them from their suffering. What I see in his presidency reminds me a little bit of Alice in Wonderland. Remember when she and her companions who had traveled the yellow brick road to beseech the great and powerful Oz to rescue them from their ills? While they were trembling before the grandiose image and cowering under the powerful voice, the little dog Toto pulled back the curtain to reveal an elderly and weak old man desperately manipulating his image and voice to keep up appearances. The moral of the story was that once Alice and her companions encountered the flawed, very human, and now humbled Oz, they came to realize that he was all bravado and facade, and that they had the power within themselves to creatively resolve their problems. Dorothy. Oh, yes. Now, day by day, the curtain is being pulled away, exposing not only our current powerful leaders, but our whole patriarchal culture of white male supremacy that perpetuates the illusion and greatness exists and is indiscriminately rewarded by rich and powerful men in Washington, Hollywood, professional sports, and corporate America. Isn't it amazing how even after the collapse of our banks and Wall Street, we've gone right back to those patriarchal institutions and systems that promise that one more time, if we entrust our lives and our money to them, they will make us rich and successful. Right? Wrong, wrong, wrong again. One of the symptoms of our sick, masculine-dominated culture is the growing epidemic of gun violence in our country. What is the profile of these killers? First, they are men. Secondly, they are men who feel frustrated, powerless, and disenfranchised. They suffer with their shame until it erupts in hatred and blame. And then in one desperate act of frustration and rage at their condition, they get powerful weapons of mass destruction and vent their rage on the innocent. As we know from the original Mother's Day, women have protested war and gun violence for years. But the men in power are not listening. Yet the number of women in Congress is growing, and their voice is getting louder. We are now witnessing a battle being waged, and the stakes are very high. Our Mother Earth is being raped and pillaged for immediate gratification, while all the warning bells are ringing in our ears as global climate change brings on one disaster after another. The glaciers are melting, the sea level is rising, and now we have an administration that wants to roll back all the ecology measures that could restore health to Mother Earth while there's still time. So it's clear that male dominance of patriarchy has many destructive manifestations in our culture. What I'm suggesting today is that there is a necessary emergence of feminine energy, not only in women, but in men as well. And that needs to be honored so that we can have a restoration or beginning of the new dance. So where is the hope in this time of discouragement? One powerful symbol of hope is the growing LGBTQ plus movement, which makes clear that each person embodies a unique blend of masculine and feminine qualities. So many courageously claim they cannot and will not be boxed into an antiquated gender definition. Let's look at some other examples of how the feminine energy is emerging and transforming life for the better. But first, I need to say it's not fair to leave this job to women alone. We men have to access our powerful feminine energy as well. When I pay attention to my anima, the feminine energy within me, I access my creativity and am a happy, contented man. But when I ignore that part of my anima, she darkens my mood, makes me restless, irritable, and discontent. A similar discontent happens in women who ignore or silence their voice or animus. But when women claim their full voice and power, wonderful things happen. One of the best ways for women to find their voice is in women's circles. If you're interested in that, you might read Jean Shinola Bowen's book, The Millionth Circle. She predicts when enough women gather and empower each other, the world will be transformed for the better. I think she's right. Life challenges each of us to integrate masculine and feminine energies within ourselves, to develop as whole human beings and make our unique contribution to the symphony of the universe. As we celebrate the Declaration of Independence from tyranny in the past, it's time for a new Declaration of Independence from white male supremacy and patriarchy. I know some of you marched in the No Kings parade in protest to Trump's parade charade. It's also time, isn't it, for a declaration of interdependence of men and women, of masculine and feminine energies. As Alice Walker said, we are the ones we have been waiting for. I ask you now to think of women or events in your life where you saw powerful feminine energy emerging and bringing needed change or transformation. And while I will invite a few of you to share briefly about this, while you're thinking about that, I'll give you two examples. When my wife Vera went to work for Food for Families, they distributed a 40-pound food package once a month to needy seniors below a certain income level. It was so necessary because many of those seniors had to decide each month, will I eat or will I take my medicine? I can't afford to do both. Okay. Under her leadership, that program expanded from a few parishes in Louisiana to every parish in Louisiana, serving 80,000 seniors. She'd get up at 3 or 4 in the morning, head to Alexandria or Shreveport, supervise the distribution, come home exhausted but satisfied. And when she needed a new distribution site, okay, she'd contact the elected officials. And they'd say, no, we don't have space for that. No, all of our things are occupied. She said, you know, these seniors vote for you or don't vote for you. Okay. She managed to convince them to find a site in order to distribute food to the seniors. So she did whatever was needed to feed the hungry. I'll give you one other simple example, and then Michelle's going to bring the microphone around for anyone else who wants to share. When Vera and Lisa and I were in Rome visiting, we were in St. Peter's Square and wanted to get to the Vatican Museum, and a bus had just left. So I went into there was a little shop there where they sold, all the rosaries and medals and all of that. And there was a little Italian nun sitting there. And I asked her in Italian, I said, how can we get to the Vatican Museum? And she said, you better hurry. It's going to close at 4:30. So just go down the street, around the corner and up. So we hurried and got into the Vatican Museum, enjoyed our visit there. And we were walking out, and we were in the atrium, and the elevator doors opened, and that same Italian nun walked out. And so I went up and said to her, "Tanta grazie, thank you so much. You allowed us to see the museum." And I said, e domani, and tomorrow we're going to St. Peter's. I'm bringing them. And she said, "Oh, no, tomorrow's the feast of St. Peter and St. Paul. You can't get in unless you got a ticket." Now, I had gone to the North American College and asked, could we get in to see St. Peter's or the Pope? Oh, no. You got to do that months ahead of time. You have to contact your bishop, and you can't do it. So she says to me, "Quanti siete? How many are you?" And I say, "Siamo tre. We are 3. And she pulls out 3 tickets, gives them to me, says, "Be there at 9 o'clock in the morning." The power of women, okay? Not women who are in leadership or power positions, but women who do what is needed when it is needed. Now, perhaps you have an example or two to give. If so, just raise your hand and Michelle can bring you the mic.
So hi, I'm Elise. A bunch of you actually know this story. Some years ago, I was spending New Year's Eve in Los Angeles, and a friend of mine took me to a Buddhist temple so we could chant in the new year, which was lovely. My voice was getting hoarse. Right around midnight, they stopped so you can write down your intentions. And I'm looking around me at all these wonderful Buddhists writing down peace, love, harmony. And for those of you who know me, I was maybe not ready to do peace, love, and harmony at that time. So my intention was to be more obnoxious. Flash forward about a month and a half. My partner and I are on a plane to Singapore, and it's Air Singapore. Air Singapore is always fabulous. The service is wonderful. We're in business class, and the adjectives removed guy sitting behind me is giving the flight attendant a really hard time over like when he's going to get woken up. And the poor girl is standing there, she's in tears. And I looked at Tim and I apologized. But I said, if I'm going to put down the intention, I got to do it. If I'm going to say it, I got to walk the walk. And he's going, no, don't make a scene, don't make a scene. But I stood up and I turned around and I said, she's right. You're being a dickwad and you owe this entire plane an apology. And he got it. And he apologized to her, and he apologized to everyone else in the cabin, and he made a point of apologizing to the captain. So prior to, would I have ever done that before? No. Would it have been the same if I was a guy? I don't think so. But there was this immediate, acclimate from everybody around going, yeah, somebody finally said it. So yeah, it doesn't take a lot. Just get in there and do it.
Thank you. Anyone else has an example? Yes, please.
I just wanted to say a little bit of something about my stepmom, Laura Hall, who used to be the kids director here way back in the 90s. And when her and my dad left, they moved to Southwest Virginia and she got it into her head that she wasn't going to be a teacher because she didn't like the way the schools were run. She was going to have to get herself a position on that school board to change things. And everybody said that, well, that was impossible. This is a good old boys club. These people are enshrined in their positions, and you will never be able to make any kind of change here. And so she grabbed my little brothers and canvassed door to door in the outskirts of Marion, Virginia, in national parks, walking up half-mile-long driveways to Nowheresville to try and reach everyone. And she did win. And then she won re-election. And then she became the president of the school board. And changes were made. She didn't believe that she couldn't. She could. She did. Very powerful.
Bert?
Okay, I think we all agree that we are the good guys and they are the bad guys. However, it's fascinating to me why we never give the bad guys an opportunity to even speak. Okay, I would love to see a forum or whatever type of activity where the bad guys at least get a chance to say why they're so bad. And if it's necessary, I have a 90-year reputation for being a devil's advocate. I will temporarily take on the role of the bad guy and argue the bad guy's case. But for example, now all the valid comments that have been made are in danger of bouncing back on us. For example, the church now has totally female management, and there's nothing wrong with that. But someone wanting to find problem would say, look, 7 or whatever it is, 9, whatever, women are running the church and no men are running it. The point being, there's nothing wrong with that. The church is doing fine under its present management, but it's open. It's open to criticism. At any rate, I would like to hear a response regarding my taking a temporary role as devil's advocate and rebutting some of the things.
Anyone else?
Thank you for the opportunity to share this. I'm a visitor, so I felt a little intimidated to actually share it, but to respond to that, I worked in international development for 30 years. I started in 1995 in a company that had a president, a male president. He was the founder. He had been Department of State person. And it was a very young company. It had about 100 employees. When I started, the average age was 27.5. I was 33. And Tony Teal, the president, was very, very open to questions and everybody. And he used to have Tuesdays with Tony once a month. And he would buy bagels and we would go and ask him anything. And one of the questions that he was asked more often, it was why there are so many women here. 75% of the employees were women. And Tony, and people say, are you specifically doing it? I started in 1995, so it was late 90s. And Tony always said, we hire the most appropriate people for the job. We do government contracting. There's a lot of details. There's a lot of attention, and there's a lot of following the rules. And women are better at doing that. And he was the person that lifted me to a wonderful professional career of 30 years.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing. So, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
This is just about perception, I didn't even notice that we were all female. So it's perception, right? It's like the best people or who stand up are usually women. So that's just perception. I was like, they are, so it's perception.
Buenos días. Congratulations to all the women that are running CCUU. I'm sorry about the guy with the 90 years reputation about the devil's advocate, but anyway, Margaret Mead, famous American anthropologist, once said, no great movement on this earth has been started by more than 2 or 3 people, preferably 2. In this country, I invite all women, as they have been doing in No King's Marches, to take a leading role in rescuing this nation, rescuing the soul of this country that is going through a dark, dark period. It is, I'm pleading to the women to come, and I truly feel that the interdependence that Jim O'Neill was talking about is more relevant than ever. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. Oh, so Jacqueline, did you want?
I just wanted to say this for all. I raised 4 boys, and they seem to have turned out okay, and I think that's pretty remarkable.
Yes, it is.
I want to give you something to laugh at. I have lots of men friends. The vast majority of men are fantastic, okay? But I came up with a verbal thing. I think someone like Vladimir Putin, Donald Trump, Adolf Hitler, they suffer from something called testosterone poisoning. And we need to find a cure for that.
All right. Oh, Robert.
I want to thank you for that, because I believe I suffered from it for a long time myself. But some years ago, and thanks to Jim, there was something called the New Orleans Men's Center. And there I learned that there was a part of me that had been amputated. And I think that's what's happening to a lot of men. Because of what you're saying, Jim, American men are only half human, because the emotional side is dried up. It's not there. We're not supposed to cry. We're supposed to be John Wayne. A man's got to do what a man's got to do, right? And I want to thank you for bringing that up. And I believe that that's why so many women are taking roles, because they are not half human.
Amen. I think that might be a good place to.
Is that this is not a scenario that white women can lead, because Black women have been doing this for a long time. And it's the white arrogance, we're going to get involved and we're going to fix it. No, we're not. We're going to learn from the people who have been doing it much longer than we have, because they've got the answers and we do not.
Yes, thank you for that. So thanks all for sharing. So I believe that the divine feminine can, with our help, restore the health of Mother Earth, feed the hungry, distribute resources fairly, and can end war. It's up to each of us, men and women, to access that power within and release it where it can do the most good. May it be so. Can I have an amen?
Community Church Unitarian Universalist is a self-sustaining congregation. Members and friends' generosity help us to do the sacred work of bringing justice, spirituality, and compassion to our community and beyond. You can give online by text or in person this morning. See the information on the back of your order of service for online giving. Please remain seated for our offertory hymn, number 311, Let It Be a Dance. A benediction. May the light around us guide our footsteps and hold us fast to the best and most righteous that we seek. May the darkness around us nurture our dreams and give us rest so that we may give ourselves to the work of our world. Let us seek to remember the wholeness of our lives, the weaving of light and shadow in this great and astonishing dance in which we move.
Please join in our closing hymn, I Am Woman by Helen Reddy. It's an insert in your order of service.
Just one note on this. So the last thing, so this is from the internet, but like the last thing, it goes, I am woman, we're just gonna repeat, I am strong, I'm invincible, I'm invincible. Just like it is the whole song. Because this is, she's kind of ad-libbing, you know, and they just kind of type that out. So we're just gonna do it. I am strong, I'm invincible, right? You'll get it. Okay, so I am woman, hear me roar, the numbers too big to ignore, and I know too much to go back and pretend. Because I've heard it all before, and I've been down there on the floor. No one's ever gonna beat me down again. Ooh, yes, I am, and there's some more pain. Ooh, yes, I paid the price. But look how much I gain. If I have to, I can do anything. I am strong, I am invincible, I am woman. And heaven never break me, 'cause it only serves to make me more determined to achieve my final goal. And I come back even stronger, not a novice any longer, 'cause it's even the conviction in my soul. Oh, yes, I am wise, but there is more to me. Oh, yes, I paid the price, but look how much I gain. If I have to, I can do anything. I am strong, I am invincible, I am woman. I'm woman, watch me go, see me standing toe to toe, as I spread my loving arms across the land. But I'm still an embryo, with a long way to go, till I make my brother finally understand. Oh, yes, I am wise, but wisdom bored me. Oh, yes, I paid the price, but look how much I gain. If I have to, I can do anything. I'm strong, I'm invincible, I am woman. I'm strong, I am invincible, I am woman. I am strong, I am invincible, I am woman.
Please join in the words of our chalice extinguishing printed in your order of service. We extinguish the chalice here that it might glow gently in our hearts. May it light your path as you leave this place. May it guide your way until we are together again. Please join us for refreshments and fellowship in the fellowship hall.
Jim, that was